Hey everyone, welcome to the Restoration Podcast, a podcast of hope and healing. Listen as we hear real stories told by real people. Our prayer is that these conversations bring encouragement to your life. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Not sure when you're tuning in or listening, but thanks for tuning in nonetheless. Today is a really special episode. It's going to be really great because we have these two wonderful people as our guests. This is Tyler and Laura Helton. You Morningside Assembly regular attenders either recognize this face or that name. This is Pastor Johnny's son. Pastor Johnny has two kids, Tori, his daughter, my wife, and then Tyler. So Tyler and Laura, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So really quickly, can you just take like 60 to 90 seconds and just tell people who you are? What do you do? Where are you from? How did you end up where you are now? We'll start with Tyler.
Okay. Well, I think a lot of people already know me, but I'm Tyler Helton. As Pastor Aaron mentioned, I am Pastor Johnny's son.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of where I'm at in my walk of life right now is I'm married to my sweet wife, Laura, and we live in Springfield, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
In 2016, we went to Evangel University together to study music education, and now I am an assistant band director in a small town called Rogersville, Missouri,
Mm-hmm.
and I teach woodwinds primarily, and it's a part-time job, so on top of that, I'm also, I do a lot of gigging on the sides. I play with a band in Springfield, Missouri, and
Some people may not know what gigging is. What is gigging?
so gigging is like different opportunities to play live.
Getting hired to play
Getting
somewhere.
hired to play
Yep.
music, yep. And other than that, I do maybe the occasional jazz band
Mhm.
gig or,
We'll dive into that. But
yeah, and private lessons as well.
Cool. Awesome. Laura, a lot of people are probably really, no pressure, but they're probably like, I want to know more about this lady that we see sometimes. So where are you from? How'd you get to where you are now? What do you do?
I'm originally from Oklahoma, small town Oklahoma, and I realized early on that I had a love for music and for education.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came to Evangel to study music education in Springfield, Missouri, which is where I met Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
We both got degrees in music ed, got married, and now I teach elementary music in Springfield and have a dog that I'm absolutely obsessed with. We play regularly on our worship team
Mm-hmm.
and are really enjoying life right now.
Yeah, so you teach elementary music. So my wife also, Tori, Tyler's sister, also teaches elementary music. Some people are confused when they hear that and they don't understand. So can you maybe explain to people what that means? Because sometimes when they come to Tori, they're like, oh, what grade do you teach? And she always has to be like, well, all the grades at my school. So when you say you're an elementary music teacher, what does that mean? What is it you do? Because some people really don't understand.
So I teach all the students in the school. So in my school, that's kindergarten through fifth grade. And those kids, each day, they have typically what we refer to as their specials classes. So PE, art, music, computers, it varies from school to school. But music is one of those. So I get them 30 minutes twice a week. And it's really just general music, kind of an introduction to how we use our singing voice, how we play simple instruments. When you think of a kid's Christmas program, that's what I would be responsible for. So really just introducing them early to a love of music and hoping that they carry that appreciation with them.
Yeah, and it's not easy. What you do isn't easy either, Tyler, and we'll dive into that here in a moment. But so both of you guys kind of grew up in a church environment. You're very familiar with church, very familiar with ministry. Both of you are involved at your current church on the worship team, correct? In the
Yes.
music department. When did you first start doing like church ministry music? When did that start for you, Tyler? When's the first time can you remember that you played on a worship team or helped out in ministry?
Absolutely. So I asked to be part of the worship team back in, I think it was maybe 2010. And our youth pastor at the time here was Pastor Josh Nelson, and his wife Lindsay was in charge of the worship team. And I was starting to get decent at guitar, and I said, hey, I want to get involved. And so they threw me right in. They also threw my sister in on clarinet. And so I've been doing worship ministry for probably nearly 14 years now. And it's expanded a lot from that. I went from playing acoustic guitar to playing saxophone to leading electric. It's been a huge pleasure to serve in that ministry for so long.
So when you were a student back in 2010 is when you first started?
Yes.
Were you in junior high or high school?
I was I was in junior high. I was a 7th grader.
7th grader.
Yes.
Wow, that's young.
Yeah, and I honestly I owe a lot of my musical talent uh, to serving in a
Yeah, there you
music
go.
ministry role
Yeah.
like this.
That's where it started, right? And
Yeah.
then you just kept growing.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Laura, what about you? When did you first start doing worship or music ministry? Can you remember?
Well, the church I grew up in was pretty traditional,
Uh-huh.
and way back in the early 2000s, we did a thing called special songs
Okay. Yes, I remember those.
that took place during like offering time.
Yep.
So after the worship set, but before the sermon, there was a special song.
Yeah.
And when I was a little kid, Mom would have me practice on little CDs and tape tracks, and I would
Cassette
learn
tapes,
little,
yeah.
Christian songs, and I would sing a lot of specials until eventually when I was in middle school, I joined my youth worship team. And I had a youth pastor's wife who really poured into me and taught me how to harmonize and kind of gave me the abilities that carried me forward. And then once
Yeah.
I was in high school, I also joined the adult worship team, and I've served off and on since then.
Yeah. Do you remember any of the songs, the specials you sang as a little girl?
The first one I can remember, and I don't even know if this is a well-known song, but it was called "I Am a Promise."
Oh, that's a very well-known song. Yeah, I know that one.
I think that was my first one.
That's a great one. I love it. Yeah. So hey, all you listening or watching, let that be a lesson to you that start them young. You never know what
Oh, yeah.
when your kids, when you start them really young in something, that may be what their ministry is. As these two have said, now they're music teachers. So and it all started when they were younger. So that's awesome. Hey, Tyler, do you currently serve at your church? And I'll let y'all talk about that and elaborate.
Yeah.
But why do you still do it? Like why still do it? Sometimes, as you know, both of you, people have they're gifted in music, but then they get burnt out, so to speak, and they just don't want to do it as adults. But why do you still serve in worship ministry today?
Well, I think a lot of it is just because, I grew up with a father that was a pastor, and I was taught the discipline of going to church and serving in your church at a very young age. It's never been a pain to go to church and serve. It's never been something that I have to second guess. It's just I feel like it is my calling and my duty as a child of God to serve. And the difference between being on a worship team and serving at church versus like going and playing at a jazz concert is it's not about me. I am helping people. I'm helping lead people into worship through music. And so that's, for me, it means so much to be able to do that and to bless people with my playing. But ultimately, I am drawing them closer to God. I mean,
that's good.
That's why I keep doing this.
That's awesome. Laura, same question. Why do you still serve in music today? Sometimes people who do like music for a living, they're like, Sunday, that's my day to just receive. I don't want to do it. I don't want to touch it. But you and Tyler both still serve in music ministry. So why still do it today?
Well, Tyler and I were kind of talking about this the other day. I feel like church and society in general has become very consumerist.
Yeah,
Like
elaborate
it's all
on that.
about showing up and what can I receive today.
Mm-hmm.
They sit as an audience member and not as a participant.
Yeah.
They come in, they get what they want, and they leave. And we've forgotten about the other aspect of like, what do I have that I can contribute to these people around me? What do I have that I can use not only to serve God, but to serve the people that I see every week?
Yeah, that's good.
So to me, it's like this is something that I have that I can use to serve others with. And I enjoy it. It doesn't feel like work to me.
Yeah.
We go to a church that is very participatory in their worship. I mean, they sing loud and they are into it. And so there are Sundays where I'm at the front of the stage and I'm getting more sound coming off of the crowd singing back at us than I am in my ears from the band. And that is a blessing.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm getting as much poured into me as I am pouring out.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tyler and Laura attend a church in Springfield called Central Assembly. Y'all been there how long now? Y'all went during college, right? So for a while.
For a while.
And Central is also the church that Tori and I attended when we were in Springfield. And it's a really great church. It's a really unique church. And y'all can add to this. But what drew me and Tori to it was they had a really good mix of traditional and modern or contemporary. So they would do some of the latest stuff that just came out, but then they would also do a throwback, like a hymn. And I, like Laura, grew up in a church that was kind of more on the traditional side. So when I stepped into this huge sanctuary that seats, how many seat does their sanctuary seat? a lot.
A lot.
It's big,
Really
okay?
big.
It's a big
and
one.
so I step in there, and I'm like, wow, this is cool, latest, greatest, and then they close with, like, a hymn, and I'm like, this is cool. The other unique thing about Central is they have a full choir, correct? A worship choir.
Yep.
And orchestra sometimes.
Yeah.
And so that was really unique because all three of us are instrumentalists, by the way. Morningside people, you know, I play French horn, I play brass, trombone, trumpet, and what do you play, Tyler, other than guitar?
Saxophone is my primary instrument.
And then Laura, you also?
I play saxophone and I also play clarinet.
Yeah. So instrumentalists, we found a church that has an orchestra, and we're like, yeah, absolutely, we'll be part of that. So it's really unique, and we love Central. We know you love it, and we're thankful for it there.
Yeah.
So quickly, just something kind of fun. Do you have a favorite memory from serving over your years in a worship ministry? Like either like a highlight that you'll never forget, something that's kind of etched in your mind when you were either at Central or at Morningside or wherever. Either of you, Tyler, we'll start with you. Do you have a favorite like standout worshipful moment in ministry that you can think of?
Well,
I think I know what your answer is going to be, but let's see. Go ahead.
so, I'll give one that's it's more for me, but last Christmas, they just randomly out of the blue were like, "Hey, can you do Christmas Eve Sarajevo,
Yep.
the Trans-Siberian Orchestra song?" And I said, "Well, you need to give me a minute to practice
Yeah.
it." But I came in there and I played it, and they were all like, "Oh my gosh, that was awesome!" And it was just a really surreal moment for me because that was always like the epitome of awesome Christmas music, and finally got to share it with
So your
Central.
favorite worshipful moment was when you were featured, basically.
Like I
And
said,
a
that was
non-spiritual
that was
song.
that was more for me. No, but I will tell you I will tell you something
Sure.
worshipful.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So it was also pretty recently.
Mm-hmm.
We had a huge amount of people one morning at Central, full choir, full orchestra. I was playing guitar that morning, and there's a really awesome arrangement of the doxology that we do, and it kind of goes into this gospel breakdown, and then we build it back up, and I don't know, during that gospel section, we do it 3 times. It just gets more intense every time. And then all the band cuts out and everybody sings hallelujah. And I mean, just the power of the audience, the choir, everybody singing. I mean, it was such a tangible moment of the presence of God in that
That's
place.
awesome.
I was like, yes,
Yeah.
this is awesome.
That's cool. Laura, feel free to talk about when you were featured too, but do you have a favorite or a highlighted worshipful moment over your years? It doesn't have to be at Central. It could be anywhere. It could be back home or...
I don't know that I have like one specific moment, but I can think of, different things in my head of things that have stood out. Anytime someone comes up to me and says, I remember this Sunday when you sang this song, and something about the anointing that day, I was so blessed by what you were doing. Like when I hear stuff like that, that is like stuff that sticks to me because sometimes we don't know. It's
Yeah.
hard to tell what's going on in the heads of the people that
Right.
are out there. We don't know if they're in it, if they're critiquing our voices in their
Right.
head while they're listening,
Yeah.
what they're experiencing in their own life. So anytime I get something like that, so like a testimonial from
Yeah.
someone saying, I'm so blessed by what you do, or I remember seeing you do this and it really meant something to me.
Right.
I love moments like that. And I also am a huge sucker for anytime we like cut all the instruments out and we just let the congregation sing
Oh, yeah.
is like beautiful.
That Central, especially that size congregation and choir, it's just that when that sanctuary gets full of voices, there's nothing like it. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, but I like that. I think also sometimes, especially with vocalists like yourself, Laura, Tyler, you're not a vocalist, but
Sorry.
that's okay. We forgive you. Sometimes congregation members see vocalists and they sort of put us on this pedestal as like, oh, they're the perfect Christian. That's why they're up there. But, we go through things as well. And a lot of times people also think, well, vocalists, they're up front. They probably have total confidence. And I'll speak for myself as a vocalist. I am not the most confident. There are way better singers than me, way better frontmen, way better everything than me. So I can connect with that. Whenever someone tells me, oh, that ministered to me, that just lifts my spirits. Like that gets me going for another month. You know what I'm saying? More so than like, I don't know, but I agree. That's really awesome. Something a little more fun here. Do you have any embarrassing moments that you can remember up on a Tyler's like, oh yeah,
Oh,
lots.
yeah.
Where to choose from, right? Anything funny that kind of happened, maybe a mishap or a technical glitch or something funny that happened. Maybe it wasn't even you. Maybe it was just something that happened at your church. But go ahead, Tyler.
Oh, I got a good one for you. So, probably when I was in 8th grade, so this would probably be about 2012.
Yeah.
One morning, this is at Morningside. One morning, I was playing in the main service, and this was back when Bill Davis was the music pastor, and I was playing acoustic that morning. And they used to have like this amplifier that I would stand next to and listen to myself, pre in ears.
Yep.
Anyway, so one thing, if you're a guitarist, get strap locks for your guitar. All right, it's very important. So
There's a tip. Yeah.
yeah, there's a good tip for you. So my dad was up there, and he was doing an altar call, and it was a very, very solemn moment. It was just very quiet in there. Bill was just lightly playing the keys. I was playing guitar. Then my strap broke, and this guitar, just in the middle of my dad praying, just goes smack on this amplifier.
Really loud.
It was so loud, and of course, every head in the congregation just goes
That's funny.
up. And
Eyes on you.
yeah, eyes on, and of course, my dad just kind of turns around. And it's like, what was that?
That's funny.
Yeah.
You were how old?
I was probably 13.
Oh, so they probably forgave you. They're like, oh, it's just a kid.
Yeah, they probably forgave me.
That's awesome. Laura, what about you? Can you think of anything kind of funny that happened?
Back in my home church, I can remember having like a big solo in a Christmas production, and it was one of those things where I was kind of the only person on the main part of the stage at that point. And I guess no one had checked like the mic batteries.
Oh no.
So I'm like in the middle of the song, the mic dies. At first I'm like, do I keep going? Do I just try to sing really loud? So I finally just start running across the stage, grabbing mics, like trying to find one that's
funny.
working.
During the
While we're going,
performance?
I mean, like I can't stop it. So yeah,
That's
I mean,
funny.
I eventually found one that had working batteries, and it continued. The show went on.
That's
It was
good.
fine.
Yeah.
The show went on.
That's awesome. Yeah, so like, when we do a church service every Sunday, whether it's Central, here at Morningside, anywhere, it's basically a mini production that gets put on, and you never know what's going to go wrong. That's what happens when things are live, and so it's just always fun. It also keeps you humble, like
Yeah.
That's just the joy of
Yeah.
live music.
yeah, not even just that, but even like at a jazz gig, I'm sure things have happened as well.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
funny things
Oh,
happen
yeah.
here and there, but that's awesome. So the cool thing about you guys is that both of you are music teachers in the public school system. And so I kind of wanted to open this can of worms here and have you guys share a little bit about that. I was going to ask you, what is it like being a spirit-filled or Christian school teacher? We all know that in the public school, it's different than private school where most of the teachers are there and they're Christian and they want that environment. But in a public school, that's not necessarily the case. You may be one of a few, or you don't even know, the spiritual life of your coworkers. But what would you say, each of you, same question, what is it like being a spirit-filled Christian teacher? Does that at all help maybe during a stressful season? Or does it help you see students that may be kind of difficult in a different way? How have you ever leaned on the Holy Spirit or God? What is it like doing that? Tyler, I guess we can start with you,
Yeah.
being a Christian teacher.
I mean, it's definitely hard. I mean, like you said, sometimes we're a minority. I don't know what the walk of every teacher in
Right.
my school is. I will tell you this: the school that I'm in right now, the band program I'm in, I'm very blessed to say all the band directors are born again Christians.
That's good.
And
Yeah.
so, they're not all Assemblies of God. And like one of them's a Baptist, but that for me, that's a big thing. That's a big deal
Right.
that we're all Christians. But beyond that, it is difficult because you do stand out. But I will tell you that whenever I meet new students, for the first time, I always mention that I'm a Christian. I'm proud to say it. And you'd be surprised. Kids will lean on you because I think they see you as a kind of we talk about safe space,
Right.
but spiritually a safe space because I'm sure there are many kids that aren't Christians or maybe they're agnostic or whatever, and now that they know that their teacher's a Christian, they feel comfortable with me talking about Christ. I've even had a kid before ask me like a spiritual question before.
Oh, really? What was it?
Yes.
Do you remember what that question was?
I can't quite remember. I think
Did you have an answer?
Oh,
or were you like, get back with me?
I think I did, but
Okay, good.
it's a real blessing, and the Bible says we're in the world, but we are not of the world, and I think that's a great example, and you never know who you're going to bless and just even just your students knowing the fact that you're a Christian can kind of change their perspective on you immediately.
Good
Hopefully in
or
a
bad way.
positive way.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
Hopefully in a positive
It could be in
way.
a bad way, right? But
Yeah.
Laura, same question. What is it like being a spirit-filled, godly teacher? How has that helped impact your teaching?
It's a unique position to be in for sure because like you've both said, you don't know where your coworkers stand in their spiritual life, what they believe. And same thing with your students and their families. And we do have to be careful and professional and I can't tread on the beliefs of others because I am in a public school, but at the same time there's so many things that I can do
Exactly.
without saying it, like for instance, at the beginning of every year, like I pray over every 400 and something of my students before the school year starts. And throughout the year, I make it a point to, when I notice like, oh, that kid's really struggling, or, oh, I'm hearing about some things that are happening at home, like to put them on a prayer list, because if they don't come from a spiritual family, if they don't have a tradition of believers in their household, I might be the only person praying for them.
Yeah.
Like that might be it, And so it's almost a situation of being a silent light often. And of course, there are opportunities where I get to let that faith shine when I have one-on-one conversations with my coworkers, or sometimes I will have students that their grandparents or someone they know goes to our church and they'll see us on stage and say, oh my gosh, I saw you on stage. I didn't know you went to church. And so that's like another foot in the door too. So that's kind of a unique benefit to being on the stage, I think, is that we kind of can broadcast that faith a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
But it is a great place to be and also a difficult place to be at the same time. I do feel some of those burdens for my students very heavily. It's a lot to take home to know that there's not someone giving them the same values that I grew up with, and so there's always that challenge of what can I do,
Yeah.
There's been nights we come home and we'll talk about a student, and sometimes we'll pray over them, and we'll talk about how, like, I wish we could be a more prominent positive figure in their life, because you can obviously tell that they don't have a good home life, and it's just that desire in us to be a light into that student. That's one of the main reasons why we teach, so we can do that for those students.
Yeah, your dad, our lead pastor, he always says this. He said it multiple times. He says that he points to the congregation. He said, "You are the only Bible some people will read. Some people may not dive in, but if they see, like Laura said, that you stand out and you act differently, and then that'll impact them." The other thing was, when I was considering taking this position, a worship pastor, I turned to Tori and I was like, "Isn't this gonna be awesome? Like, I'm gonna be in full-time ministry." And then your sister turned to me. She's like, "You are in full-time ministry as a teacher. Like, that's a mission field." And something that Tyler and Laura both briefly mentioned was that we are all three of us, all four of us, including your sister, products of Evangel University. Not Rhema, Pastor Scott, Evangel, get it right. Anyway, sorry. But Evangel always reminded us, at least when I was there, when we were in our classes, they said, "Hey, you are going to go be doctors and lawyers and all this stuff, but you're always ministering. You're always going to be that shining light."
Yeah.
And that is definitely true, as you both just shared. A growing statistic of young teachers are leaving the classroom. Have y'all noticed that?
Yeah.
Quite a few of our friends as well, right? Like we have, so like when we start freshman year, there's like tons of music education majors. By the time you get to senior year, it dwindles. And then after senior year, you see people get jobs or not get jobs, and then sometimes they leave. And this is something Tori and I have talked about, but it's kind of a growing trend for different reasons. But a lot of teachers who are starting, they're overwhelmed or they're burned out, and they're leaving the classroom. They're doing something completely different than what they studied for. So maybe someone listening now is a first-year teacher struggling, which really quickly, was your first year difficult on a scale of 1 to 10? Was it pretty hard when you first got hired?
Probably 11.
What about you?
Oh my gosh. I told Tyler the other day, I don't even feel like I remember a lot from my first
Just
year.
a
I was
blur.
so exausted and stressed out. It was very difficult.
Yeah.
Well, and to elaborate on that,
Do it, yeah.
Laura, I'll tell you this, her walk has been a little bit easier. She was able to get a full-time job right off the bat.
Yeah.
My journey, just the nature of my job, has been a lot more difficult. I started off for a semester teaching orchestra. I was a long-term substitute teacher, and I don't play violin. I don't play
Right.
cello or bass, and so I did that 6th through 12th grade orchestra, and then I went to another school district and taught 6th grade band for the second semester, and then I ended up where I'm at now, and I'm part-time. I'm not even full-time. So, I mean, I've gone through 3 different schools in a very short amount of time.
That
so.
happens sometimes too. So if you're listening and you're an education major and you're having trouble finding work, it happens usually with more specific people. So like us, music people. If I'm studying to be a 5th grade teacher, there's usually more of those openings. But when it's something specific like PE, art, or whatever, that happens. But yeah, back to that topic of burnout and teachers leaving the field. Every time I see it, it honestly breaks my heart a tiny bit. But I mean, some of them I understand. Sometimes it's obvious. It's like, oh well, duh, you're great at doing this. You should do that. But maybe someone listening or watching is a first year teacher and they're like barely making it. Do you all have any advice for first year teachers how to make it through? Because both of you obviously made it through a very tough first year for both of y'all. What is something that helped you get through it, or what advice do you have for those people? We can start with Tyler.
One piece of advice I would give to somebody that's new is don't bring work home with you.
Oh, that is a really good. That's just good in general.
That's just
not
good.
just
That's
for
just good
education.
advice in
Yeah.
general to
Yeah.
anybody. Don't bring work home with you. Once your contract time is done, leave it. Come
Yeah.
back to it tomorrow. Laura and I, we really try to make a goal every night to not bring work home. Inevitably, there will be times you have to. Like, I'll be honest with you, I have to write a few parts for kids this week. So
Thanksgiving, huh? So
yeah,
that's what you'll be during dinner, huh?
yeah, but yeah, just leave it at the doorstep. Come back to it tomorrow. And I would say, like, another piece of advice: just know that even though you may not be getting paid a bunch, because I don't think a lot of people know, but teachers don't get paid very well.
Yeah, and that's another top reason why sometimes they get asked, "Why'd you leave?" And like, well, I just can't make a living off of that.
Right.
But continue though.
Teachers don't get paid very well, unfortunately. I wish we all got paid more, but anyway, talk to Uncle Sam. But just teaching is so we talk a lot about extrinsic motivation, like getting stickers or candy or whatever, or money, and intrinsic motivation. And teaching is such intrinsic motivation. Just remember what you're doing. You're not just teaching reading or math or music. You are helping shape the generation, the next generation of American citizens, or wherever you may live. And that is so intrinsically that is so motivating, and just let that be a drive to keep you teaching.
Yeah,
you are
that's
shaping
good.
the future of our country.
That's good. Laura, any advice for first year teachers struggling? They want to quit next year. What would you say to them?
I would say I have 2. First of all, be patient with yourself. I think for me, growing up, many things came easy to me, to be honest. Like, I picked things up quickly. I learned things quickly. There weren't very many things that I found difficult at first, but teaching was something that I was not good at for quite a while. Like,
Yeah.
it took me a really long time to feel like I was good at that. And I was in such a hurry to feel like the expert in the room.
Yep.
And I was in such a hurry to feel like the people that I'd worked with, that they've already got all their units and their lessons that they've taught 50,000 times. And so they know exactly how to do it, and they know what they're going to do next.
Yeah.
And I was so ready to be at that point when I first started. And I just had to learn to be patient with myself. And the first couple of times that you try something, it's probably going to stink.
Yeah.
But like, you
It
have
will.
to go through that process to
Yeah.
figure out what does work, and to figure out what your style is going to be, and what the kids respond well to. And even sometimes there's stuff that has worked well many times, and then you try it with a different group and it doesn't work that
Yeah.
time. And you just have to shake it off. Be patient in the process, and knowing that, like, if you're in this for the long haul, it's going to take a while before it feels really good.
Yeah.
But once it does, it's extremely rewarding. Year 3 is where I'm at right now. And year 3 feels infinitely better than year 2. And beyond that, way
Beyond
better than
infinity
year
than
1.
year
like,
one.
it gets so much better the more that
Yeah.
you do it, because you start to feel comfortable, and you start to get to the place where you wanted to be 2 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever, So you do have to be really patient with the process. And another thing that I learned was to make a habit of, at the end of the day, whether that's while you're cleaning up your classroom before you leave, whether that's on your way home, try to make a habit of at least coming up with a couple of things that went really well that day.
Yeah, that's good.
It was really easy when I first started, and even now, to pick out all the horrible stuff that happened, all the train wrecks of that day, and they play on repeat in your head. And that can really tear your self-esteem down, and it can really make you dread going back the next day, because what bad things are going to happen the next day. But when you do that, you completely forget about all the really great moments that happened. And when you get into a habit of looking for them, then you start to notice more of them as well.
That's good. Yeah, first years, no matter, it can be like the best school district ever, and the best whatever. But when when you're in charge for the first time, it's really difficult. It's really hard. I mean, every teacher will tell you that. For everyone, just got to go through that first year. So that's really great advice. I remember when I was considering what to study in college, and I don't know if y'all knew this, if I ever mentioned this, but I loved math. Did y'all know that?
I did
not
not
know that.
Fun fact.
I just learned something new.
Yeah, I loved math, and so I almost wanted to be an architect. Did y'all know that?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so see, learning new stuff. I was like, I'm gonna be an architect. I'm gonna be really rich, and then I just thought really hard, and I said, do I want to be well off, or do I want to be happy? And so obviously I didn't choose well off because I studied education, but it was like exactly like you both said. It's really rewarding, and there's no amount of money can really outweigh that feeling of accomplishment, or when the light bulb goes off when you're teaching. It feels really great, and I still love teaching. I miss it a lot. We'll see if the Lord opens that door again, but yeah, you guys are great at what you do, and y'all definitely are doing what you're called to do too. It's fun seeing all your posts and stuff, which that is another thing I think teachers today struggle with, is they see these awesome teachers on TikTok and Instagram, and just like what Laura said, I'm going to try this, and then it just crashes and burns, and you're like, I'm not good, but you don't know their setup. You don't know if they, bribe the kids to get a 60-second clip that looks perfect. You don't know, But yeah. Okay, so I asked this question earlier, but now in a different environment. Do you have an embarrassing story or moment while teaching in front of students? Something you said that just completely went off the wazoo, that just didn't work out, or something embarrassing that you didn't notice, and then kids pointed it out. I will say this too, students are very good at that. They're very good at pointing out things that they should have pointed out an hour ago. You know what I mean? And so it's just really funny. But do you have any funny teaching moment, something embarrassing that happened that happened to you, Tyler?
I mean, I probably have a lot of them. I mean, I'm a human. I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
Like for example, my voice cracks a lot when I teach. Cause
that's great. Students love that.
Oh, they love it. I'll be honest with you. When I teach, I get really excited, and I always have parents telling me, and other teachers saying like, "Oh, you're so enthusiastic when you teach," and it's just I just enjoy my job. I get really excited. So sometimes I start getting real high pitch, and I start yelling. Well, I got to be careful about that, because then my voice starts to crack a lot. Like the other day, I was like, "All right, here we go." I said,
and you lose them.
Yeah, I said, "Oh, I'm 12 years old again," and they think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, when I did my first orchestra gig back when I first started teaching, the substitute teacher, or sorry, the regular teacher that I was subbing for, she left a stack of music on a cart and said, "Hey, you're in charge of picking up music. Why don't you sight read a bunch of these?" And I didn't know what these pieces were, so I just flipped through and I saw, oh, Rachmaninoff. Okay, I've played Rachmaninoff before, and so I said, okay, we're gonna sight read this, you guys. And so we start off, and it was just an absolute train wreck. And they were like, "What are we doing?" And I said, "Okay, let's not do that anymore." And then I asked one of my friends who was an orchestra player. I said, "Hey, I tried sight reading this. It was a train wreck," and she just busted out laughing
Because of what it was.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh yeah, there was no way they were ready for that."
That's funny.
First day teaching.
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah. Laura, anything embarrassing happened to you, or?
I mean, I've had my share of wardrobe malfunctions, and probably a lot of situations too with like kindergartners where they had a wardrobe malfunction, or we have a poop apocalypse story that we.
Oh, please share.
No.
This is going to be the clip we share everywhere.
Okay, well, last year I had a kindergartner who apparently had a bad habit of when he was really having fun doing something, he would forget to use the bathroom because he didn't want to stop what he was doing to go to the bathroom.
my
So he would
gosh.
just kind of wear whatever he was feeling right there. And so usually swap classes with PE. So like I'll have a kindergarten, he'll have a kindergarten, and then we'll swap at the end of that 30 minutes. So he was in PE first. So I tell the PE coach, like, this is a compliment to your teaching. He was having a great time in PE. They were doing bowling or something. And he was having such a great time that he pooped his pants. And PE coach had no idea. He's oblivious to it. I go to pick up the class. We're swapping classes. And I walk in, and there's just this, like,
The
smell
hit you.
that hits me. And I'm like, whoa. And all the kids have got their shirts, like,
Yep.
over their noses, like, oh, it smells really bad. And I'm looking around going, what's going on? And coach is like, oh, I don't know. I think somebody just, like, stepped in dog poop outside or something. So then this kid walks up to me and, like, reaches to hand me something, and his hands are covered in an unidentified substance. And the pieces clicked in my brain, the smell and the sights. And I was like, oh, okay, you need to go to the bathroom right now. So I send him to the bathroom to wash his hands, and I get my class inside. He comes back, and the smell is still lingering. So I'm like, uh-oh, there's more to this story. So I had to ask him, did you poop your pants? I don't know. Okay, go check. So he goes back to the bathroom, and he checks, and he comes back. And he just comes right back in class and starts dancing and singing. And I said, hey, did you poop your pants? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, buddy, how do you not know? I think you do know. I don't know. So finally, I was just like, I'm calling the nurse. So I sent him down to the nurse's office. And the nurses said that when he came out of their bathroom, that it was like the worst thing that they had ever seen.
Oh my gosh.
So after their class, like, the janitor had to come in, deep clean the gym because it started there, deep clean my room, deep clean the boys' bathroom. I mean, the chairs had to be wiped down. It was a whole afternoon.
But
So,
so he had a good time in PE then, because
Oh, yes, he had such a great time in PE that the bathroom was not on his list of priorities.
oh my gosh,
Yep.
that's funny. Yeah, those things just happen. Whatever kind of job you do, you never know. But especially when you're working with students, and teaching is just one of those jobs where you just have to get your hands dirty, so to speak.
Oh, I
And
don't want my
so
hands
not in
that
that,
kind of
yeah,
dirty.
not in that sense, but that's
Aaron,
awesome.
I've got a story for
Do
you.
it. Yeah, go for it.
And you'll appreciate this. So I think a lot of people know this, but for those that don't know, I speak Spanish. And so actually, before Laura and I got married, I was substitute teaching in Sioux City. And it really does amaze me. Every time I come back, Sioux City is becoming such a multicultural city. And you almost have to be bilingual in the school district now.
Yep.
So I was substituting for an English second language class. Most of them were Spanish speakers. And so I was getting to use Spanish, and it was a lot of fun. Well, at the school I was teaching at, they had a very strict no phone policy. And so we were having homeroom time, and so a lot of people were getting out their phones, and I was getting really upset. I was like, hey, put your phones away, And so finally I got my teacher voice, and I said, sacan los teléfonos ahora, which for people that don't know, instead of saying put your phone away, I said, get out your phones
'em
now.
out right
Yeah,
now.
so take your phones out now. And they all just look up at me, and I was like, maybe I didn't use the right verb. And so I looked it up, and I was like, oh no, I said, get out your phone.
That's funny. Yeah, those things happen.
Yep.
Subbing, we can do another whole hour on that, because subbing, you just literally unknown where you're going to go.
Oh
but
my, yeah.
But yeah. But Tyler, Laura, thanks for stopping by. Y'all are busy people. Y'all are not always in town. But thanks for sharing your heart and your testimony. I really hope this encourages fellow teachers out there in whatever season they're in. And we pray that the Lord keeps using y'all in your ministry. We love tuning in and watching you guys play and sing and do whatever. And Tyler is everywhere. Will you share just really, really quickly, we're almost out of time, your side gig? What is it you do? You teach, but you also do what?
Yeah, so I play with a group in Springfield called Elevate Entertainment. And so basically what they do is they have a really unique thing called the hybrid experience. And Elevate is primarily a DJ company. And so they go and do weddings, big parties, bar mitzvahs, you name it, quinceañeras. And so they usually have a DJ, but the hybrid experience is they have a DJ plus a live band.
A live band.
Yeah, and so what I do is I go to these really big weddings all across Missouri. I've even gone to Chicago before and done one there. And basically, I just play. I basically improvise the whole night, but I'm playing with live DJ tracks, and they can mix stuff out. But it's a really unique experience, and it's really fun to go to these weddings and play for people's special day. But ultimately, I play with some really awesome musicians.
Yeah, I mean, you are an awesome musician yourself.
Well,
so
thank
like
you.
you keep up. So.
Yeah, and it's been a lot of fun. It really does help supplement my income as well.
Sure, yeah. But sometimes our family just gets texts and we get this picture of Tyler at a gig, and it's like, it looks like it's from a movie, or like if you go to an artist's Instagram, and so it's just really cool to see you do that and enjoy it while you can before kids get here, while you have the time. So, but thanks again, you guys. You guys are family. Love you both.
Thank you.
Glad that we're connected. It's all divinely timed, and we're thankful to use you here at Morningside. Sometimes you may recognize their faces. They're on the platform sometimes, but thanks for stopping by. Teachers out there listening, watching, be encouraged, have hope, hang in there first years especially. You heard it from them. Things get better, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening. We'll see you in the next episode, guys.
Thanks for listening, and be sure to follow Restoration Podcast on Spotify and Apple. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe.